Welcome back. You're still watching Nile Cruise, and moving on now to the first segment. And the Labor Day, as mentioned, occurs on the 1st of May in many countries. Among them is Egypt. It stems from ancient customs associated with the celebration of spring. It is also a national holiday for workers in many countries around the world. Labor Day has taken a different orientation since January Revolution in 2011, as it has become related to protests and demonstrations and not to official celebrations and speeches like it used to be in the previous regimes. Labor strikes have become common in Egypt. That's why we need to discuss what do our workers really need, and to discuss this we're joined with Gamal Zayd. He's a writer and a columnist and also the managing editor of Al-Ahram newspaper. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So it's a great pleasure to have you. Today is a special day for celebration and appreciation for the laborers' work rising and taking nations to the next level. And it definitely comes at a time where Egypt is looking at this aspect as a very important milestone, where we've seen a number of decisions that is regarding to the laborers. But at the end of the day, revolutions come for the sake of laborers. Things change for the sake of laborers, and they are pivotal in our society.
In fact, it's, it has not to do only with laborers, but it has to do with the middle class in Egypt, generally speaking. And because of the sufferings of the middle class during the last 30 years, during the Mubarak era, people, they suffered lack of public services like health, Medicare service, like education, like the deterioration of the infrastructure in Egypt everywhere. So when it comes to the labor's rights, on the top of the rights is the minimum wage of the laborers. Still suffering the question of the minimum wage.
Exactly.
Talking about increasing the minimum wage to be 1,200 pounds, which equal to around 150 US dollars, per month, which is too little. Minimum wage,
yes.
And we have to connect that to the economic reform. Because the politicians in Egypt are dealing with the wage problem like a political problem. It's not a political problem. It has to do with the economy. They have to reform the economy, first of all, to increase the productivity and to increase the rate of GDP, or national gross product in Egypt, NGP, to be able to increase the wages of laborers. It's not a simple issue.
Yes.
Maybe many of the laborers leaders, they think that they are struggling and fighting for the minimum wage and to connect it with the higher wages, but this is not the issue. The issue has to do with tackling the problems of the economy. Still the Egyptian economy depends on the services sectors, not the production sectors like industry and like agriculture. I don't mean that the service sector is not important, like tourism sector and the workers' remittances from abroad, and Suez Canal revenues, and the other services. But we have in Egypt to do economic reform, not like before to depend on physical reform only, but
yes.
It has to do with the production sector. If you
It's an ecosystem.
If we produce more, we will be able to export more, we will be able to have more hard currency, we will be able to have more currency reserve at the Central Bank of Egypt. Then the situation of the economy will improve. But I mean, telling everybody that we will have what we call it the social justice, and we will increase the wages. But if you increase the wages now, it will reflect on the inflation rate,
yes.
and it will reflect on the devaluation of the currency,
yes.
meaning that the value of the Egyptian pound will not be equivalent to the Egyptian pound 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
I mean, you can,
and
the purchasing power of the pound
connection.
will go down.
And there's no direct connection between increasing the minimum wages and the inflation. It's an ecosystem that needs reform, like you mentioned. In your opinion, what is limiting the governments? Several governments has came ever since the 25th of January. In your opinion, what is limiting the governments other than the financial capability to implement the minimum wages? Because they can always do it using the maximum wages.
Listen, we have a deficit in the budget, the national budget of Egypt, and we have the problem of subsidies. This is a big problem. I mean, but if they will try to abolish the subsidies, meaning the majority of the Egyptians whom the 40% of them under poverty rate will suffer. And that's why, I mean, they have to find out new solutions for the subsidies. And from what we are hearing nowadays, that the government of Mahlib is trying to abolish or to cancel the subsidies before the upcoming president arrive to the office, which in my point of view is extremely dangerous. First of all, because the prime minister is not elected, nobody elected him, and he doesn't have the full authority to do that. And over and above, I mean, you have to expect social unrest and political unrest if you abolish the subsidies in just one step.
And it's a step that you cannot easily revoke it by other governments, for example, because it's like a decision, it's a one-way path. You cannot go back.
I agree. I mean, I agree that we have to find a solution to the subsidies, but I mean, you have to increase the taxation policy. I mean, in Egypt, the maximum taxes in Egypt is 20%, while in industrial countries like the United States or Canada or Western Europe, I mean, the taxes goes to
sometimes goes to 40 and 50%.
45% and more. I mean, you can add to the 45% on income tax, the other taxes, it will go up. And that's why, I mean, you have to tax the rich people and to compensate the most deprived population in Egypt.
But the same applies, because you know, when you're paying taxes to the government, you're expecting services back. And if you are speaking about social justice, we also have to look at the poor, where they get the benefits and services. We also have to get the benefit that the rich and maybe investors would get once they are paying those taxes. Today, what we're living, how are you evaluating the level of service that the citizen is getting in return for the amount of taxes that he's paying, which is not a little amount?
It's very poor. I mean, the quality of services they receive is very, very poor in Egypt. I mean, look around you. I mean, you will find a deterioration in public services, in hospitals, in schools, and roads, on bridges, on structure everywhere. But at the same time, this is not, you cannot justify